Hey guys, welcome back. In this video, I'm going to talk about 5 different ways to avoid injury in your training based off my experience. Injuries are almost inevitable in this game, but with a proper approach and preparation, you can reduce your chances of sustaining a serious injury or one that'll keep you out of the game for some time. Over my 5-year period of calisthenics training, I've experienced minor, acute, and chronic injuries. I hate to say it, but they've been valuable teachers that I was too stubborn to pay attention to. Here are the lessons my injuries have taught me, and hopefully they can be of use to you, so that you won't have to take lessons from them personally like I did. Alright, starting with my first tip for avoiding injury in your training: avoid too much too soon. This is probably one of the most common forms of sustaining an injury with training, especially amongst newer trainees or with new movements or exercises that you have not yet learned and are trying for the first time. Whether it has to do with the intensity, load, or reps and sets used, if you are new to training or experienced and working with an exercise, skill, or load that you have not yet acclimated to, start slow. And by slow, I mean dial down the technique first with easier progressions, then gradually increase the load or intensity applied over time. Here's an example with trying weighted ring push-ups for the first time with too much load. If you're trying weighted ring push-ups and you let your ego dominate by adding 60 to 80 pounds on your first ever attempts when you have never performed ring push-ups with weights in the past, your body may not respond the way you want it to. And if you force a load that your joints, muscles, and connective tissue are unprepared for, injury may be imminent. Now, even if you're strong enough to perform 1 to 2 reps with that weight, your body has yet to acclimate to that load under tension. Instead, start with a low load and slowly add weight over time. Even if you know you can lift heavier loads, there is no reason to do so yet, and there's nothing to prove. You are not weak for working with less weight. You are smart for progressing with lighter loads and working towards heavier weight to avoid an injury. The same concept can be applied to just bodyweight exercises and changing the intensity with leverage or body position. If you're new to the push-up and struggle on the floor, work with an elevated surface first. Otherwise, you'll sacrifice technique, which may cause an imbalance over time and potentially lead to an injury, which could have easily been avoided. So, prioritize technique first, then work on increasing intensity over time. Start slow, be patient, and finish strong. Now on to my next tip: do not ignore discomfort. If you've trained for some time, there may come times when you're training and you feel discomfort in a particular area, but not pain. And because it's not painful, you may choose to ignore it. I'll provide an example from a previous injury of mine. When I was obsessed with getting the handstand, I would spend hours a day just training them relentlessly. Over time, I was feeling a weird and discomforting sensation in my wrists and forearms, but I thought nothing of it because there was no real pain. Little did I know, my body was trying to warn me. I ignored those warnings and ended up with a terrible case of tendonitis in both of my forearms. And this put me out of my normal training for months. Had I paid more attention to the original discomfort in my wrists and forearms and addressed that issue at the time, I could have avoided the tendonitis getting as bad as it did. My point here is to sincerely listen to your body. Discomfort can lead to pain, and pain can lead to an injury. Now, I'm not saying when you feel discomfort to completely stop what you're doing. Instead, address the issue by making changes. For me, I could have reduced the amount of time that I trained handstands, worked on stretching and strengthening the smaller structures in my wrists and forearms, and even used parallettes to take some load off my wrists in an extended position. Listen to your body and the warning signs. Take action sooner than later, and you can potentially avoid long-lasting injuries. Now for my third tip: warming up. I'll keep this one short and simple, but warming up is just such a solid way to prepare physically, mentally, and essentially prime the body for the work to come. Preparing surrounding structures and priming your body with a solid warm-up can help you from going into a workout cold and potentially causing an injury. Now, there might be arguments about warming up versus not warming up. It might not be the same for everyone, but from my experience, warming up the body prior to training has only ever helped and set the tone for my working sets. Also, there's no need to overdo it. Something simple and effective that lasts maybe 10 to 15 minutes and is specific towards your training can do the trick. Another good tip is to look at your warm-up as part of the workout. People tend to see warm-ups as a separate entity from your workout and get lazy with the warm-up because of that mindset. Remember, it'll not only help your overall performance, it can also potentially help you from sustaining an injury. Now on to my fourth tip for avoiding injuries: addressing weak points. Take the time to work on neglected areas, whether it's mobility, scapular work, forearm and wrist work, areas that you normally aren't isolating and working on that can help support your bigger compound movements or skills and help prevent injury or imbalances from occurring. A great example are the posterior shoulder group muscles. These tend to be neglected and can really fine-tune the overall health of your shoulders. If you're training for handstands, work on strengthening and stretching your forearms and wrists, and focus on improving your shoulder mobility. These smaller muscle groups can be trained at the end of your sessions or even on your days off. These can be viewed as bulletproofing or prehab sessions and can help not only improve your overall performance, but may also reduce the risk of injury. My last tip to avoid injury is to avoid the numbers trap. This one is for those who track themselves religiously during their training. Sometimes getting lost in the numbers can outweigh what you're feeling. For example, let's say you have a push day and you have planned on paper to perform 5 sets of 5 reps of handstand push-ups, chest to wall using parallettes. As you perform the handstand push-ups, you can feel by your 3rd set that you are really fatiguing and your left elbow starts to feel a bit weird, and it might actually be too much for you at the current moment, but you have it so set in your head to finish what you started and stick to the numbers that you have planned for the day. Otherwise, you might feel like you've failed yourself. You continue to push through, only to end up feeling a really bad tweak in your elbow towards the last set, leading to an injury you may now have to deal with because you did not adjust your plan accordingly. Now, this might not be applicable to everyone, but to those of you out there who constantly strive to outperform yourself or stick to your plan at all costs, learn to make adjustments when necessary. I strongly stuck to my numbers in the past and felt that if I had strayed away from my original plan, that I was failing myself or becoming weaker. But in reality, had I just let go of my ego for a few minutes and readjusted my plan based off how I was feeling in the moment, I could have avoided injury complications. Sometimes regression can equal progression. Alright guys, that is my video on how to avoid injuries in your training. If you enjoyed this video or found it helpful, please leave a like and click that subscribe button down below for more content in the future. If you have any questions at all, please leave a comment down below, and if you have any suggestions at all in terms of injury prevention, please leave a comment down below. Injuries are pretty much inevitable in this game, no matter what discipline you're training with, but that doesn't mean we can't prevent a serious or chronic injury from occurring. So hopefully my tips help and you can take something from this. Thank you guys for watching and enjoy the process.